Hi folks, it's Dr. E and I'm here with an instructional video for the mind map assignment. And as always with any of these assignments, those materials can be found in the content area of D2L and it's in the module that's titled Syllabus, Schedule, and Rubrics. Okay. All right, so this is the general handout and guidelines for the mind map. It's a way to generate ideas by association, right? That's the original kind of purpose for this. But you know, a lot of us, we're familiar with mind mapping because it's pretty much a staple part of brainstorming at various levels of writing, right? So whether it appeared in early English classes that you've had or in other work where you've just tried to get your ideas out in a visual way, mind maps are pretty familiar to us, right? So I want you to think about the fact that this is just a way for us to organize our ideas in a way that's a bit more visual, right? We're not writing a discussion post or we're not writing a written response or something that feels like, I feel like I'm writing an essay, even if Dr. E doesn't call it an essay. This is just a way for us to collect those ideas. There's writing involved, but it doesn't have that kind of stress associated with it. At least that's my hope, right? All right. So if we look at the assignment guidelines again, I want to kind of make sure that you see that there are some useful websites that you might appreciate. But then, you know, let's get down to what are the expectations. So what you're going to do is make sure that you have a central theme or main idea in the center of your page, right? Here we go. It can be done using pen and paper by using a software program such as Microsoft Word or a mind map generating site. I am going to stress, if you are using pen and paper, your handwriting needs to be clear. The paper needs to be clear. If you're taking an image, it needs to be clear because there is some handwriting that I could not read in the original submission. So keep that in mind. Don't be afraid of technology. Technology is your friend. Just go ahead and use one of the templates. You may be familiar with thought bubbles, right? It's similar to this. You're just going to branch out from that main idea with some different information, okay? It's going to be tempting, I mean very tempting, right, to spend quite a bit of time on the formatting, looking at the different colors and how to connect these ideas. I know you want your work to look nice, and I really appreciate that, but the ideas are what are the most important. So please don't spend a disproportionate amount of time on the design of the work. Instead, put that time into the actual work, right? If you're like me, I could sit all day and just move lines a little bit, change the color just a little bit. I could do that for a very long time, especially if I'm trying to avoid the actual writing part. Okay, all right. And then I put, you know, consider using the templates. Why not? You don't have to create the wheel if the wheel is provided for you. And I put here edit, right? Go over your work to ensure you have met all the requirements, right? Spend some time revising. Ultimately, your grade is based on the writing, right? So you want to make sure that that is as well thought out, well formatted as possible. Okay, so for our course specifically, though you initially will have the choice to handwrite the mind map, right, you'll want to move into utilizing either a template offered in the course or choose your own at various sites. Okay, so I've put a link here for Canva. If you haven't used it, get on board. It's a very easy site to use for different kinds of visual work, right? So I've linked you directly to the concept map area, and you just go in and start playing around. You'll sign in. You don't have to pay anything. Don't worry about that. And then it'll just walk you through how to set up your ideas. The same is true for mind map. Sorry. Let me go to this site. So it's essentially the same thing. You click get started and you can kind of choose the different kind of map. You can create a free map, that kind of thing. I'm also going to offer you templates. So here is one of the templates that I will upload for you to use should you want. I want you to note that you can move some of this stuff around in terms of text, but you can't necessarily reconfigure the template. Right. This one is a little bit more detailed for those of you who just like to be more detailed in that way. This is the one I always kind of encourage students to use because it's set up in the way that we need. There is the middle idea and then 4 ideas that kind of radiate out from that main theme or thesis and then added information. Okay. So unless the prompt says otherwise, you're going to choose at least 4 subtopics. So that's why I specified this one's pretty easy to use because you already have 4 subtopics, right? Okay, those things that connect to that middle idea. From each of those subtopic bubbles, you should then aim for at least 1 bubble or idea to stem from that section. Okay, and so I've given you an example because I think that's only fair, right? But let me go over some of the rest of this. Aside from the central or main idea in the center, every bubble or part of the map should include complete sentences, complete, right? And you'll sometimes need to include quotes to support your ideas if that's something that is required. Again, I will give you specifics. Save your document in Word or PDF format and upload to D2L in just those formats, and take the time to edit and revise. All right, so this is the example I offered, which is being a success in Dr. E's class. That is the main idea, right? Radiating out from that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 ideas, okay? Those are in squares, so you can kind of tell them apart with the color. So one idea is time management. In order to achieve the goals, you need to organize your time in a particular way in each week and across every semester. Okay, and then there is another idea that's coming out from that. One way for me to work on time management is to use the calendar app. Okay, so another way to be successful in Dr. E's class is to follow instructions. For this course and most others in college, y'all, this is very true. It is important to understand the instructions and check those repeatedly during the process of completing the work. I often tell students, like 90% of your success in a course such as ours is just you following the instructions. It's just you submitting the work on time, following the instructions or guidelines that are set, right? If you do nothing but that, you will be successful in the course, right? So follow the instructions, and I put here when work is assigned, I will watch the instructional video and look at the rubric. So writing from a student's perspective, right? All right. Another idea is asking for help. Even though it can be a bit scary at first, I know that to be successful, I'll need to ask either Dr. E or my colleagues for help. And then from that idea comes, when I need help, I'm going to post in that Q&A discussion board. I can also ask my group for ideas if you've been placed in a group, email Dr. E, set up an appointment. Yeah, very true. And then finally, use all the resources. That's one definite way to be a success in these courses. I know that taking additional steps and using various resources will ensure my work is well written, focused, meets the requirements. One way to do that is to visit places like the Purdue Online Writing Lab website for MLA assistance, to utilize Grammarly, all that good stuff. All right, so that essentially is the mind map assignment. So make sure that when you go back to double check that you followed all the instructions, that you're kind of double checking all of these areas. Look at the example if you need a bit more information. And this is one, y'all, that I just created. I just, went up in Microsoft Word, I clicked insert, I picked pictures, I included text boxes, right? You don't have to do any of that. Just use a template, right? Or go to Canva and play around just a little bit, not too much. Don't spend too much time on that, and create a mind map. Like I said, moving forward, we're really going to focus on uploading actual documents that you've created versus handwritten ones. Some of you, depending on the class, may be offered an additional week of writing the mind map by hand, but we need to practice, move away from that. Again, any questions, post in that Q&A discussion board area, but this, I hope, will be kind of a fun way for us to gather and submit our ideas in a way that's not just a straight up writing assignment. All right, good luck.